Okay, socialism, and of course it has worked in many countries.
Yes.
When you have to economically want to boost up or re-energize the upthrust in the movement of the economy.
Yes.
And again, the important aspect that also needs to be done is have a sort of a timeline economically within which you need to address these things within.
Yes.
I mean, things need to be put into the right path here, because the current government is accused of mismanaging and mishandling the economy.
Yes.
You imagine the amount of debt that we need to pay back, especially to China and of course to the European countries and to the global financial institutions, including IMF and the World Bank. But when you take a look at the policies in place at the moment, because there is also the plan by the government to seek the bankers' advice for fresh 250 Kenya shillings billion Eurobond issue, which will be at 4.742% of 5-year Eurobond yield, which is at that percent. I mean, and you look at our track backwards, going that the way we have mishandled the economy, yes, and what we have put in place as an ambition to achieve, as a target, as a goal intended to be realized. Does the current situation compromise and, of course, and make the realization of the sustainable goals, for instance, less viscous to achieve because of the current economic status in the country?
I think we drifted away from the Vision 2030 as a nation, and every time we have elections and we have a new government, the government wants to focus on things that probably don't fall within the Vision 2030. And this is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. And I think I've said here before that alone is like it's actually a disease. Mm-hmm. So the government has all of a sudden realized that they can actually not be able to pay the loans which are maturing this year, because there's some money that's supposed to pay this month, and by March I know some loans are maturing. So what has the government done? Because we cannot be able to raise locally enough money to pay, because the government has realized that they have to send money to the schools for the free primary education, and I think 39 billion is going there, and other projects that have put them under pressure, including the counties, which need their money, which they have not been receiving. So the government is opting for another loan, another Eurobond, so that they can repay the maturing loans and hope that that loan now can be able to be paid in future. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a vicious cycle. Mm-hmm. That we have a framework that we want to operate within, which is our Vision 2030. We have the Millennium Development Goals, mm-hmm, which we have to focus on. But because we lost focus midway and started focusing on projects that we felt were important to us as individuals, we've ended up in the situation where every 2 years we may actually end up borrowing, mm-hmm, to actually repay loans, which is a sad state, mm-hmm, for a country that is growing.
Okay. Yes. And again, the fear that it might end up or continue the perpetual continuity, yes, or cycle. Yes. The fear is that, again, according to some of the recommendations made by the global financial institutions, is to ensure that at the current rate, where we have many Kenyans who are not paying taxes, and there are, of course, a few Kenyans who do so, yes, is to reduce that inequality. There's a proposal perhaps by a intergovernmental or non-governmental organization to ensure that they do tax the super rich. When such proposals comes, or such proposal does come in, what impact does it have significantly to re-energize or uplift the economy, giving it the ladder support, in the sense that now there will be that sense of equality in the country? Because at the moment what we are debating about is that inequality, because many Nairobians, for instance, according to many reports, do go without a meal a day. Yes. And the situation is, similar for many Kenyans across the country. Yes. So to attain that middle level status in the country, does taxing the super rich alleviate the position of those who are poor, so that we can have that point where, again, from the onset, it will act as the springboard where we can all pay taxes to finally boost up our economy?
Actually, if we were able, through the system, to be able to get more in terms of taxes from the rich and channel those monies efficiently to the projects that are supposed to uplift the lives of the poor, we'll be able to get there. Mm-hmm. The challenge we have with the Kenyan system is that as it is now, we cannot be able to tell you who is a billionaire in Kenya, mm-hmm, because people have been involved in very dubious deals over the time, and their monies are not in the system. So yes, we know we have very rich people, mm-hmm, but you cannot be able to track those monies. People have implemented systems and ways of course, setting offshore companies, and you get to a situation where there's capital flight. So if we can be able to use technology, one, to ensure that we rope in everyone, to ensure that we can be able to track and know who is doing what business and collecting what. Then from there now we can be able to implement a system whereby the richer are taxed more, and those monies are used actually to offer services to the poor who may not be able to pay the taxes. And that probably affects the direct taxes. The government also has to look at a way of reducing the taxes that burden the poor people, so that as we channel money to them, they may have more money to actually be able to afford the basic needs. So that can work, but it needs a government that is, of course, open enough and willing to do it. And we hope that for the next 3 years of the Kenyatta government, we can be able to achieve that. Yes.
Okay. As we go to the last couple of minutes of the program, I just want us to also take a look at the important aspect of the investors now coming into the country. Of course, they continue to trickle in, but we need to make an adequate, byproduct out of it, in the sense that it does support our economy in terms of job creation and the opportunities that they do come with. We know there are many countries, especially the British have many Britons or companies from the UK have many companies in the country, have larger presence in the country. But when it comes to, again, that investor confidence, does the current economic status worry them, and to what extent can they use this opportunity to siphon in some sort of energy from our economy? Because at this rate, even global financial institutions can say, okay, look, this is your current situation. Let's give you more money in debt again, which is going to be causing more economic burden again. Opening a window or a gateway, perhaps, of, again, capitalizing on our current status. So how do we need to ensure that the current loopholes do not act as the gateway or the entry point of people who are seeking, or companies, international, loan lenders, or even global financial institutions, to use that opportunity as perhaps to capitalize on our faltering economy, in the regard, again, that we need to be putting our house in order because of the current status?
Currently, there's a feel-good feeling about the economy and about the prospects, of course, of achieving more in terms of growth. And other than the small hiccups we're having, like what we had at the terrorist attack at Dusit, we are seeing more of confidence from the foreign investors in the country. What we need to do is that we need to look for a way of driving the agenda, not them driving the agenda. And how do we drive the agenda? Is to come up with a budget, to come up with a policy on what kind of money we need from these institutions. And are those monies actually needed in the economy? Because what we don't want is situations whereby a foreign country comes with money and they dictate where that money is going to be put. Because we end up investing in projects that we don't need. So if the president says that we want to have job creation through manufacturing, then we need to focus on manufacturing. Which areas within the manufacturing sector can we be able to fund so that then we can be able to achieve that? The foreign investors can fund that area. Then we can be able to achieve a lot. But if you wake up one morning and say, the Americans want to fund another road, another Mombasa road, like they have done, which we know we don't need, it's another 200 billion or so shillings, which is going to waste, because this is something that we don't need. So we have to look for a way of driving the agenda, setting the pace, looking at what we need as a nation, areas that we have weakness, and then telling the foreign institutions, the foreign investors, that we have opportunities here. We've set industrial parks. You can come and invest in these areas, and we know that those can be able to create jobs for the nation. And of course, then we can be able to achieve economic growth. Yes.
Okay, your final sentiments on the Treasury now seeking to borrow fresh 250 billion Kenya shillings Eurobond issue as you continue. And does this again bring in some sort of uncertainty with regards to the Eurobond again? Because even in the first instance, there are questions, of course, faulted by the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga over the Eurobond and how it led to scandalous Jubilee ending in the 2017 season before the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Do they need to learn from the past mistakes in handling such a huge amount of money? Because in the event, again, it goes wayward, we'll have consequences again. Further reports coming in to say that this growing inequality will continue, because if such money will not be channeled into the right programs and projects, it means that we'll be suffering the consequences of the economy.
The biggest surprise is that we've not known about this for the last 6 months. We've all been hoping that the government is mobilizing resources to be able to repay the loans, only for these to come up. And the beauty that we have now is that we have more of unity between the opposition and between, of course, the president and the former prime minister. And we've seen a lot of positive energy from them in terms of ensuring that resources are being well allocated. But Kenyans should not expect so much in terms of impact of this money, because 100 billion is going to repay the loans. 150 billion will be going to bridge the gaps within the 2018-2019 budget. So we may not be able to see so much. We just hope that, yes, it's a loan. Ensure that the money is put into good use. So that as we repay the loan 5 or 10 years from today, we can look back and say, look, we actually benefited from this money. But if we end up in the saga that we have with the Eurobond one, Kenyans again will of course lose trust in the government and how it is carrying out its business.
Of course, many Kenyans have expressed their concerns about the management of the economy with regards to that.